Hey everyone, it's Sander Jennings and welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's video, you're going to see an interview of me by the Maddie Vlogs. It's a super awesome video and I promise you'll learn a lot about allyship, mental health, and many other important topics. So stick around and watch right now.
I have Sand over there and I thought it'd be pretty cool if we could start off just talking about how as a ally and a sibling you can support your siblings when they start coming out.
Yeah, I think that is something that is easier said than done. A lot of people tell me that they think, hey, Sander, you became an ally to the LGBTQ plus community because your sister was transgender, so you were kind of forced into it and you had to be the best ally possible. But unfortunately, a lot of people and siblings of LGBTQ plus people aren't as supportive and aren't as understanding and aren't allies to the LGBTQ plus community or even supportive of their LGBTQ plus sibling. So I think that's the first thing to note when it comes to allyship, that it wasn't like I was forced into it. It was my choice to be an ally, and I'm proud to be an ally today, and I'm proud to be sharing my story. Now, if you are someone who has an LGBTQ plus sibling, an LGBTQ plus friend, or an LGBTQ plus neighbor, as an ally, number one thing I tell people is to listen. You need to listen to your LGBTQ plus friend, family, and neighbor and understand where they're coming from. A lot of people talk about love is greater than understanding, and I think that's super important to note. By listening, you can create that love and show that unconditional love and support, even if you maybe don't completely understand. I don't know what it's like to be LGBTQ+, especially not transgender like my sister, Jazz Jennings. At the same time, I've listened and I've learned and I've had love, and that's how I've created more understanding, and now I feel like I'm well equipped to not only be an ally to my sister, but be an ally to the rest of the LGBTQ+ community as well.
I think it comes to a point too, at least for myself and many others who have done the coming out experience, siblings are the hardest. And I think it's because you have that bond with them and you don't want to disappoint them, but telling your sibling and coming out is actually really scary. So you were pretty young though when she came out, didn't you? Weren't you?
So Jazz began her social transition at the age of 5, and I was 7.5, maybe 8 at the time. And when she kind of came out to my parents were like, "Your brother is now going to be your sister," and I didn't really understand gender identity or sexual orientation at the time, and I'm still learning today. So I was just like, okay, I'm gonna listen to my parents, and that's what I did. I'm gonna keep supporting my little sister now, and I didn't realize how much really went into it in terms of pronouns and bullying, this, that, and the other thing. And it was as Jazz began to mature and we kind of went into the public eye, and then I matured as an ally, that I realized how important my message of allyship was and how important it was that I was so supportive from the very beginning.
How do you, as an ally and a sibling, deal emotionally with the bullying that you got? Because I think a big thing is everyone always tells us that, oh, you chose to be transgender or you chose to be gay or I chose this, and it's like, clearly I didn't. But at the same time, we tend to get bullied more over looks, presence, sexuality, but you have a different side of it. It's your family member, but it's also, you get bullied some too. So how as a kid did you handle it? Because I have so many kids that come to me and are like, I'm straight, but my brother's gay and I'm starting to get bullied and it's not me and I don't know what to do.
Yeah, so it's funny that you bring up bullying. And in my childhood, right when Jazz began her transition, and probably the first 10 years of her transition when I was still in grade school, elementary school, middle school, and high school, I was bullied, but I didn't know why and I didn't really comprehend why. But at PE, kids would bully me, and I always just thought it was because I was winning the sport. People always kind of singled me out, and I never really understood why. But I look back now, and I think it possibly was because I was supporting my sister who is transgender. It was because I was on a TV show. Even at the time, the TV show was kind of small. And people did bully me, and I didn't even realize that I was being bullied because I was a sibling of someone who's LGBTQ+. But a lot of people, I was kind of naive. I'm just such a friendly person that I was just like, I would try to brush it off. But I know a lot of siblings of LGBTQ plus people do face that bullying, especially now that it's more prominent and more people are coming out as LGBTQ plus. There's more siblings of LGBTQ plus people, and they are facing that bullying, and they recognize that it's because their sibling is LGBTQ plus, and it's terrible. But my advice to siblings and LGBTQ plus people is to understand that those people are coming from a place of hate, and you are coming from a place of love, and if you just continue to be proud of who you are and continue to be proud of supporting what you support, then the people that care about you most will stick around, and the people that are bullies and don't care are the ones that are consuming their life with your own life.
If you had to tell your younger self, like, let's say 14, 15, if you had to tell your younger self one thing about what the future held for you, Jazz, your family, what would you tell yourself?
If I could go back and tell my younger self one thing about my journey, it would have probably been to be a stronger, more active ally earlier on. Like for you, do you see a lot of people who are siblings of LGBTQ plus people in the media or at all?
Not really. You see the one who's in the community, but you don't really see a lot of kids advocating for their family members or for their kids. You know, it's the person who's, you know, transitioning, or it's the person within the LGBT community that's constantly the one that's either getting picked on or in the media spreading awareness.
Exactly, but unfortunately, only approximately 4.5% of the population is LGBTQ plus. That leaves 95% of people, and for every single one of those 4.5%, I mean, there's obviously some people who live as an only child, but for the most part, there's at least one LGBTQ plus sibling for every LGBTQ plus person. And if I could go back and tell my younger self something, it would be that statistic right there, because maybe it would have opened my eyes up more and maybe become a more active and stronger ally earlier. I wish I would have had like a sibling of an LGBTQ plus person to look up to know how to be that active ally. And that's why today I'm trying to be that.
Which I was gonna say, you do a good job. Like, you are that now. Like, I think and I always try to live by my quote of, you know, be the hero you needed when you were that age. And I think right now what you're doing is you're being who you needed. Like, you're being that ally mentor to everyone else who doesn't know who to look up to support their siblings.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to be. It's still tough because, once again, I still don't have that role model to really look up to. There are some really great celebrities like Demi Lovato, who's always posting about allyship. And there's other allies out there, Ariana Grande. But there's not like really one person who's constantly promoting allyship, like at least on a weekly basis. And that's what I'm trying to do. At the same time, then people will come at me and be like, Sander, you're doing this to it's performative allyship. You're trying to gain a reward out of something. And people don't understand that being an ally, once again, comes with bullying and toughness. And this isn't about receiving an award. This is about trying to help people. And that's all I've ever wanted to do. And I recognize that now. And like you asked, what would you tell your younger self? The younger self didn't recognize that I had the ability to share my story and help a lot of people. So anyone watching this, even if you don't identify within the LGBTQ plus community and you're not an ally to someone who's LGBTQ plus, whatever your story is, share it. Like, you have the power, and your story is your power. And for me, I felt like I was strong. I was always passionate about helping Jazz, amplifying her voice and supporting her. But I never really shared my story and my voice, even though there's so many people who could identify similarly with me and can learn from what I have to share.
How can someone who is an ally, what can they do right now? Like, what advice can you give them to get started, or how to be a good ally, or like how to reach out to people? Like, what can they do to, you know, help the community?
Yeah, so first off, when you are trying to be the best ally possible, it's super important to recognize the work that has come before you. Recognize the LGBTQ plus people who are constantly fighting for LGBTQ plus rights. Recognize their work and amplify their work. So like I said, I started by amplifying Jazz all the time. I would always share her stuff, support her journey. And I still do that today, and it's important to amplify. Then, on your own, show that you are that proud person. Talk about your allyship journey. Talk about your experiences without ever outing anyone. Make sure you never out anyone that doesn't want to be outed, but talk about your experiences. Share your journey. Share your messaging. show that you are not scared to embrace your pride as an ally. By embracing your pride, hopefully you can encourage more of your friends. And then another main thing, besides, like I said earlier, listening, trying to create that love, acceptance, and support, it's advocating when no one else is around. So, for example, when I was younger, because I was a little bit naive and I didn't really think about this allyship journey the same way, if I had heard someone make a joke about someone being transgender or gay, I might have sat there and listened or removed myself from the conversation. But today, if I hear stuff like that, I'm advocating. Whether there's an LGBTQ plus person within that conversation or not, I'm going to advocate for the LGBTQ plus community, even if no one there is LGBTQ plus. And I think that brings up an important distinction related to being an ally between a safe space and a brave space. Both are awesome, but safe space is the one that more people talk about. Creating a safe space is creating that safe space for an LGBTQ plus community. But creating a brave space is actually advocating for the LGBTQ plus community. So it goes beyond just creating that safe space. And I recently learned this term because another way to be a great ally is to continue to educate yourself and know that you don't have the right answers, but know that you want to learn and you're going to go out there and educate yourself.
I think a good point that you brought up, though, that a lot of people don't think of is advocating and defending them when they're not there. When people are creating a bad environment, we're making jokes. Just, you don't need us around to defend us. Just stick up. Was there ever a turning point at any point where you were, a little nervous or shy about all of this, and then something happened and your whole view on everything changed and you became stronger?
I know the dates, I know the times, basically. So when I got into college, I was kind of on a TV show, but I didn't want to be known as the kid on the TV show. Like, I wanted to be known as myself. I wanted to create a name for myself on my own. And so for that reason, my allyship wasn't as strong as it could have been, even though I started to learn about my power and my influence. But I didn't want to be the kid that was bullied in college, and I was bullied in college. People love talking about me in their group chats and leaving me out of things and saying what Sander's doing is so wrong, and they'll even sometimes say it to my face, but most people won't because they know that deep down what I'm doing is just supporting my passions and my beliefs. But it was when I went to an influencer conference in Vegas where I really learned how important my influence was. And through that, I decided that it was so important to start kind of trying to be more of an influencer. But I don't really like the word influencer to describe myself. I like it more as a social advocate that also has... Yeah, I like to show off my personality too. So it's not like every single day I'm ally, because that's not just who I am. Being an ally is a huge part of who I am, but there's also goofy Sander. There's also love to work out Sander. And under that whole umbrella, what I realize is I just love helping and motivating others, with allyship and positivity being at the top of that, followed by working out and stuff like that. And you could see that within my brand. And it's what I love to do. So it was at that conference where I learned the power of influence. And 2 years later, I've grown, I think 100,000 on Instagram since then. So it's at 50 something K. Now I'm at 169K. TikTok, obviously I started that more recently, but I've grown a lot. And I think by using my voice, I'm helping a lot of people, but I know there's so much more work to be done because I don't see many allies still willing to speak up and speak out.
Alright guys, thanks for watching. If you haven't already, like, subscribe. We'll see you next time.